So like Susanna said, myself and Sydney are going to go through the information session and you will learn more about academics and student life and hear a little bit about Sydney's student experience as well. Also, Eric and Susanna are available in Q&A, so if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to press on Q&A at the bottom and submit any questions that you may have, and Susanna and Eric will be sure to answer all of your questions. We will go ahead and get started. So Randolph-Macon is home of the Yellow Jackets. So these are some of our buzzwords. Some of them may seem familiar if you've already started your college search process, but a lot of them are distinctive to Randolph-Macon. So they're things that I'll go over throughout the presentation and hopefully you'll have a better understanding of at the end. First, we'll go over all of the numbers on the screen. So first to the right, 1830. That is the year that we were founded, actually in Boynton, Virginia. And then we moved to Ashland, Virginia, which is where we are now, in 1868 to be closer to the railroad tracks. We have just around 1,600 students, and that breaks down to 53-47 female to male ratio. And about 78% of our student body comes from the state of Virginia, and about 22% comes from out of state. And those out of state students come from 30 different states and 22 different nations. So we do have a fairly diverse campus. About 23% of our student body identifies as being racially diverse. And now the first word that we'll go over in our buzzwords is code 2. So I'm not sure if any of you have traveled to Ashland or been around the town, but if you have, you might have seen some signs that say, and that stands for Center of the Universe. So whenever you get to make it to Ashland, you can check it off of your bucket list that you have officially made it to the center of the universe. About 30 years ago, the mayor of Ashland coined that title for our town and no one disputed it, so it stuck. In the background of this picture, you can see the Amtrak train station that we have just on the corner of our campus. Like I said, we wanted to be close to the railroad tracks, and we're pretty close. The railroad tracks run right through the middle of our campus. So it's a really unique part of our campus, and we love that we have an Amtrak train station right on the corner of campus for students who might not bring their car on campus, which you can all 4 years. But if you decide not to, you can take the train all up and down the East Coast. When I was a student, I had friends who lived in Baltimore and Boston, and they wouldn't even bring their car on campus. They just took the train home every break. If you go a little bit past the train station, that is where downtown Ashland is. And downtown Ashland has lots of mom and pop shops, some boutiques, some coffee shops, some restaurants, really cool stores, but also Ashland has a lot of your popular national conveniences as well, such as Walmart, Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, Target. So lots of important places that we have within our community at Randolph-Macon. Also, we have a great relationship with the town of Ashland and the people in it. We are always welcome to participate in their town events, and they're also always invited to be on our campus as well. Right now, due to the coronavirus, there aren't as many people walking around campus from the community, but on a normal day, you might see a family walking their dogs or a nice couple walking. So they're not necessarily college students, but they're always welcome on our campus and they're always welcome to be with us. About 15 minutes from from Ashland is Richmond, Virginia, which is the capital of Virginia. And you can see a picture of the skyline of Richmond in that bottom picture on the right. There's so many fun things to do in Richmond, from shopping, concerts, festivals. Also, this is a picture of the James River. So on a nice sunny day, you'll see some students going down to and hanging out at the James River. But we also see a lot of alumni go to live in Richmond after they graduate. So having those alumni connections so close is very beneficial, especially with internships and networking. I actually did an internship with an alumna in, you can see two twin buildings in the center of the picture. I was in the building on the right doing an internship with an alumna, and it was an amazing experience. We'll talk a little bit more about internships later, but having the alumni connections so close and having them so willing to help students was amazing. Also, about an hour and a half north of our campus is Washington, D.C., so the nation's capital, and there's even more opportunities up there. We have something called the Washington Initiative, which is where faculty and staff can plan trips with students up to DC, whether it be for fun to go to some festivals or for experiential learning to go to museums. And the college pays for these trips. It is free for students to go. They usually even give students like $10 to $15 to buy lunch or buy the souvenir. And students love going on these trips. They happen all throughout the year. So we love to take advantage of those and be able to interact with the larger communities around us. And now Sydney's going to talk a little bit more about how she's interacted with these communities.
Thanks, Faith. So like Faith said earlier, we have an annual event each year called the Big Event, and I participate in this each year with my field hockey team. You can see us all on the left. Last year, we helped a family in our town of Ashland paint fences and rake leaves. We also got a chance to build a really amazing relationship with them as well. They made us brownies and lemonade after we finished our service project, and they ended up even coming out to a few of our field hockey games to cheer us on, which was really amazing. And then on the right is a picture of my roommate and I in Philadelphia. We used the train to visit family and friends up the East Coast, and this was just one of our many trips. On the way back, we even stopped on Washington, D.C. just for a quick bite to eat and a little bit of sightseeing. As a student, I love my town of Ashland, but I also love the opportunities that the Amtrak has given me as well.
Great. So now for the academic experience. Randolph-Macon is a liberal arts and sciences institution, which means aside from the classes that you'll be taking for your major or for your minor, you'll also take classes in all other areas of knowledge. So that way, when you leave Randolph-Macon, you have a really well-rounded education, and employers love to see that. You're going to learn a lot of life skills that are transferable to all career fields, such as critical thinking, writing and speaking effectively, public speaking. So really great skills that you can transfer to different career fields. Now we're going to start on the left-hand side of the screen and work our way over to the right. But we are 100% graduate assistant free, which means you'll never have a teacher's assistant teaching your class or grading your papers. It will always be a faculty member. And over 99% of our full-time faculty have their PhD. So they truly are the experts. They design the class, teach the material, grade your tests and papers, and they also hold office hours, so you can go talk to them if you ever have any questions about the material you're going over, the career that you're interested in. They're there to talk to you, and they want to help you. And I think if you ask students what's your favorite thing about Randolph-Macon, a lot of them will say it's the relationships that they have with their professors, because it's truly unique. Like I said, the professors want to get to know you. With having an average class size of only 16 students, it really allows you to have that opportunity to work one-on-one with your professor, and they get to know what your learning style is. They get to know what your goals are. They want to help you achieve your goals. So it's a really nice relationship that we have with our professors. There's also a lot of opportunities for Randolph-Macon students to do interdisciplinary research in their undergraduate. One of those being our Shapiro Undergraduate Research Fellowship, or SURF for short. So this is an opportunity for students to live on campus over the summer and get paid close to $3,000 for doing their own research. And you'll also have a faculty member assisting you. This is an amazing opportunity. Students have been able to present their research at regional and national conferences. And also you can put it on your resume and talk about it in interviews for a job or for grad school. So it's a really nice perk that a lot of Randolph-Macon students have taken advantage of. We have an 11-to-1 student to faculty ratio and 50 plus majors, minors, and pre-professional programs. Some of our newer ones are cybersecurity, criminology, a new nursing program. We reworked our engineering major a little bit. So really exciting things. It also allows students the opportunity to be able to double major and double minor, especially with our liberal arts curriculum. So you're able to study more than one area of knowledge for things that you're interested in. Okay, about 35% of Randolph-Macon students study abroad, and that's a little high above the national average. And I think that's because Randolph-Macon presents students with a lot of opportunities to be able to study abroad in our 414 academic calendar. So those numbers represent months. We have 4 months of our fall and spring semester, which is pretty normal at most colleges, and then a 1-month term in the middle, which always falls in the month of January. And Sydney is going to tell us a little bit more about January term.
Yeah, so during January term, we offer 3 different options. The first one being an intensive study, which is simply one class on campus to try something new, tackle a difficult subject, or even focus on one of your favorite subjects. The school found that students actually tend to perform higher academically during the J term because they are focused on that one subject, they're meeting with that class daily, and they're completing that coursework every single day. Personally, I've done this option for the past 3 years and I'm taking courses I knew I'd struggle with, aka math, and I found it's very helpful because I was able to dedicate all of my time to it. As an athlete as well, and someone who loves to be involved too on campus, this is really helpful because I could give all of my attention to that course. The next option is the study abroad option, which Faith mentioned a little bit earlier. And this is our students' most popular way to study abroad here. But with that being said, we do have a semester and year abroad programs, and they continue to be a growing interest on campus because students are able to sample studying abroad during that January term, and they just end up loving it and want to continue pursuing it as well. So the way that works is students travel in small cohorts with Randolph-Macon faculty and staff, and they learn their coursework and materials at those destinations. And this allows them to really apply what they're learning to the environment that they're in and really fold into that cultural component of being outside Ashland, Virginia. So there's multiple options offered each year, and students can even travel abroad during their first year at Randolph-Macon College. This is great for students who can't afford to forfeit an entire semester or simply just want the comfort of knowing their entire class and professor when they're abroad. Many of my teammates have chosen this option. I think last year I had 10 of my teammates travel abroad during the month of January, and they visited destinations like France, Japan, New Zealand, and even Australia. And then lastly, there's internships. And these are typically reserved for our juniors and seniors. And it's a wonderful way to learn about the potential career field while also gaining professional skills. So students attend their internships Monday through Friday for 4 weeks. And this allows them to see all aspects of their work environment, build stronger relationships with their mentors, and just be given more substantial projects because of the consistency within their schedule. And our Randolph-Macon alumni are amazing with opening up their work environments for Randolph-Macon students, but I'll let Faith talk a little bit more about this.
Sure. So as a business major at Randolph-Macon, my senior year, I did an internship, and it was a really easy process for me. My professors asked me the types of places I was interested in working, and I told them I wanted to work for a nonprofit organization. I was interested in higher ed, and they placed me at the Virginia Foundation for Independent Colleges. So it was a perfect fit for me. I loved it. I was with an alumna, so I really got to connect with her, and she gave me some more connections. Going to work every day in the city of Richmond was a lot of fun. So it was an absolutely amazing experience. And I was so grateful that they made it so easy for me because my professors just asked what I was interested in. But as Sydney said, also our Edge Career Center helps students find internships as well. Our Edge Career Center is my personal favorite thing about Randolph-Macon. It's actually the reason I decided to go to Randolph-Macon as a student. So they work with students all 4 years, not just your senior year to find a job or to find an internship. They start working with students in your freshman year, and they have a roadmap of things that you can do in your 4 years to make sure you have all the tools that you need to succeed. They are the application of your education, as we like to say, because you're going to get all the proper necessary education in the classroom, and the Edge is going to teach you those life skills to help you be able to apply that in life after you graduate. They host over 155 career development programs each year, and these range from a resume and cover letter workshop to a financial literacy workshop, so you can learn about establishing credit, how to rent an apartment, buy a house, buy a car. They have an etiquette dinner, so you can learn at a fancy dinner which one's your bread plate, which one's your drink. There's like 4 forks on the table, so which one to use when. All the things that you'll need to know for that fancy dinner with your boss in the future. And their most popular program every year is the Career Boot Camp. This is a weekend experience for sophomores to learn all the ins and outs of professional development and interviewing. So you're going to learn, you're going to be submerged in workshops all weekend to learn about how to tell your story, how to present yourself in an interview, which hand to shake, which side of your blazer to wear your name tag, all of those little things. And then you get to put them all into practice by going through 3 mock interviews with alumni. So alumni actually fund this event. They come back for that weekend and they host mock interviews with current students, and it's great. You get to learn what you did really well on, maybe some areas that you can work on for those future job interviews that you'll have, maybe for a job or for a grad school, for an internship. And then at the end, you just get to network with all the alumni, and it's a wonderful experience to be able to network and get to know people and practice a lot of those really important skills. And the coolest thing about the Edge is that you can use them even after you graduate. They will, if you have a resume that you want to touch up a few years down the road, or you need some more connections, you can come back to the Edge and they will help you with that. They're doing amazing work. They were ranked number 13 in the nation for career services by the Princeton Review. And about 90% of our graduates are employed or in graduate school. And this is 6 months after graduation. So it's a fantastic program that we have at Randolph-Macon. Speaking of our alumni, they're still very involved on campus, and we are so grateful for all of their the things that they do. We are ranked number 3 in Virginia and number 22 in the nation out of all public and private colleges for alumni giving participation. So the percentage of alumni who donate monetarily back to the college. We're so grateful for this. I think it shows two things. One, that students are having a great experience at Randolph-Macon, that when they leave, they want to stay connected and they want to give back and ensure that other students have a great experience as well. And also that students are becoming financially successful enough to be able to give back, which is important as well. If you have the opportunity to watch our virtual tour, you'll see some newer buildings that we have on campus, and some of them are named after certain alumni, and we're very grateful for their donations, and not a penny ever comes out of students' tuition to pay for those buildings. So while we're trying to update the campus, create some new lab spaces, a new nursing building, we're not raising tuition at the same time to be able to afford those buildings, which is important. So now for the YJ or Yellow Jacket experience, and Sydney is going to tell us more about this.
Yeah, so this is our student life, and it's my personal favorite part about Randolph-Macon, especially because they just want all of their students to be involved within all of their passions. So like Faith said, YJ stands for Yellow Jackets, and if you didn't know, our mascot is actually named Buzz. I got the honor of being the mascot Buzz for a few weeks of our basketball season when they made it to the NCAA tournament. Honestly, I felt like the most popular person on campus whenever I was Buzz. It was a blast, but there are plenty of other ways to get involved with more than 100 clubs and organizations, and students actually have the power to make their own clubs, and the school is very supportive of this. So any club you can imagine, we have it, or the school will help you fulfill it, and you can create your own club. I'm personally involved in Young Life, Habitat for Humanity, as well as a mental wellness club. Some of those I pursued in high school, or I discovered through our activities fair that we have each fall. We also have 13 Greek organizations, one of which is a co-ed service fraternity. And Greek Life is a great way just to volunteer, serve, and give back to philanthropy organizations as well. And you can see at the bottom that we've raised nearly $50,000 and have over 23 service hours each year. We also have 14 residential halls, and you can check all of those out on the virtual tour that Faith spoke about earlier. But some of those options are community styled, suite styled apartments and townhouses. We are a residential campus and have 95% of our students on campus for all 4 years. I love this because it makes our student body feel very close, and we have really built a really close-knit community as well. We also have 18 varsity sports, and we are part of the ODAC, which is the Old Dominion Athletic Conference, which is a Division III conference. We have so much school spirit and pride here, especially within our athletics. Our main rivalry is Hampton-Sydney, and we're known as the oldest rivalry in the South. And we have this tradition each year called the game, and it's one of my favorite days of the year. It's a huge tradition we have where just about 10,000 friends, family, alumni, Hampton-Sydney Tigers come out. And if it's away, Randolph-Macon will even send busloads of our students to Hampton-Sydney to support our YJs. And if you ever have the chance to be on campus, check out the game trophy. It's been getting dusty because it's been sitting in our campus store for 6 years now. But if you're ever in Ashland, I definitely recommend to check it out. And then here's a little bit of my own personal student life experience. So on the left is a picture of my roommate and I in front of our freshman dormitory called Irby Hall. It was a suite style dorm, and a perk of being a residential freshman is that all the freshman dorms are located in something we call Freshman Village. It's perfect because when you're adjusting that first year, you're surrounded by all your other freshman peers, and you're able to build all those amazing relationships that you'll continue for all 4 years of being on campus. And in the middle is a picture of me playing field hockey. So being a student athlete at Randolph-Macon has been an extremely rewarding experience. Like I mentioned earlier, we're a very spirited school when it comes to our athletics. So being able to have the other sports teams, my friends, our president, and even my professors come out and cheer me on my games has been so much fun, and it's been a great experience. And then the picture on the right is me and my Greek organization. This organization has been awesome. It's given me plenty of leadership opportunities. I've held 4 leadership roles. I've gained plenty of networking opportunities. I've also gotten the opportunity to complete hundreds of service hours. So I've had a great time with my student life experience here at Randolph-Macon College.
Awesome. Thanks, Sydney. So now here are pictures of our wonderful admissions staff. If you don't know who your admissions counselor is, it's really easy to go on our website and find out who your counselor is, but it's great to have a counselor who knows your territory, knows your high school, and is there to answer any questions that you may have throughout the college application or decision process. So I encourage you all to reach out to your admissions counselor and make those connections if you haven't already. Now, for the admissions process and financial aid, you're going to hear more about the admissions process in the next session with Suzanne and Eric. And then also, I want to plug our financial aid webinar, which will be next week. But before then, I will give you a tidbit about our merit-based scholarships and need-based aid. But you can definitely learn more in our next week's webinar. So be sure to tune in for that if you haven't signed up for it already. Just a little bit of information about our merit-based scholarships and need-based aid. So all applicants are considered for merit-based scholarships. There is no additional form or essay you have to fill out. Just for applying to Randolph-Macon, you're automatically applying for aid. If you're accepted, you'll be notified in your acceptance letter how much you'll get from us in merit-based aid, and it will be one of these three options. So our Dean's Award, which goes up to $20,000 a year, the Trustees Award, which goes up to $21,000 a year, or the Presidential, which goes up to $22,000 a year. Also, our trustees and presidential award winners are invited to interview for additional award money. So if you got the trustees, you can interview with faculty for an additional $2,500. And if you got the presidential, you can interview with faculty for additional $2,500 up to full tuition. And like I said, you'll be notified in your acceptance letter if you're accepted the amount that you'll get in merit-based aid. And next is need-based aid, which comes from the FAFSA, or the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. You can apply for this as early as October 1st of your senior year. And some families don't fill it out. They don't think that they'll get any money from it, but we highly recommend that you do. Over 60% of our families do receive need-based aid. And there's also a $1,000 FAFSA filer incentive. So each year that you fill out the FAFSA for Randolph-Macon, they'll tack on an extra $1,000 to your financial aid package, which is really exciting. So that's a little bit about our scholarships and need-based aid. And like I said, you'll hear more about financial aid in next week's webinar. That brings us to the end of the presentation. I do encourage you all to follow us on social media. Here is our Instagram and Snapchat, but we're always posting things that are going on our campus. We have student takeovers a lot. So it'll be a great way for you to stay connected with us. And thank you guys all so much for listening.
Thank you, Faith and Sydney. We are at this time going to transition over to our application workshop. So we're going to pull that up. And while doing so, I do want to just offer the reminder, if you have any questions as we are going through this application workshop, please utilize the Q&A feature of Zoom. Faith will be on there answering any questions that come in. And also Eric and myself will be happy to stick around at the end of this presentation to answer any remaining questions for you. So to kick us off, we know as admissions counselors that applying to college can be a daunting process. We all have different deadlines out there. We ask for different components when it comes to that complete application. But I promise you, when we break this off into small chunks and go through each step-by-step of the process, it is manageable and you will be able to conquer these college applications no matter where you are in the process. If you are a freshman or sophomore listening in, you have a little bit of time before you really have to buckle down and get started on these applications. If you are a junior, it's a little bit closer. You know, you're really going to start thinking about this come your this summer and next fall starting to apply. And if you are a senior, do not worry. It is not too late to get started on your college applications. You are tuning in at just the right time to buckle down and get busy for applying to those colleges. A couple things to note before we really jump into the presentation. Whenever you see a yellow jacket icon on one of the slides, that is a special little tidbit that we want to offer you as a good reminder, a good thing to keep in mind when it comes to applying for college. So make sure you really pay attention to those yellow jacket icons when you see those. And then just one more time, if you have any questions, please utilize that Q&A feature. So let's start by defining some commonly used lingo when it comes to applying to colleges. First off, rolling admissions. This is a type of admissions that colleges have who are constantly reviewing applications and releasing decisions on a continual basis. So they pretty much keep their application open year-round, and you are always welcome to be submitting an application, and they release those decisions on a very timely basis. This doesn't mean, however, that they don't have deadlines. Oftentimes, rolling admissions schools will have a priority admission deadline. So if you are very interested in that institution, you want to be sure that you do apply by that priority admission deadline. We do not have rolling admission at Randolph-Macon. We do, however, have an early decision deadline. Not early decision, early action deadline. Early action, early decision, those are deadlines usually in the fall semester that you can apply by in order to hear earlier than students who apply by that regular decision deadline. Early action simply lets you know earlier. However, early decision, if you are accepted and if you apply early decision and are accepted, you are contractually obligated to attend that institution come the fall. So you do have a contractual agreement with that institution if you apply by an early decision deadline. So there is that big difference between an early action and early decision. Early action is simply letting you know earlier, so you have more time to be making that decision throughout your senior year. So we just have early action at Randolph-Macon. You can only apply to one institution early decision because of that binding agreement that you are agreeing to by submitting that early decision application. Something to keep in mind if you are considering applying early to an institution, your freshman, sophomore, and junior year grades will be considered. Your senior year grades will not be considered because we just won't have that information available at the time that you apply. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable with your freshman, sophomore, and junior year grades when applying either early action or early decision. Jumping down to a bubble down at the bottom, test optional. This is a testing policy that many institutions have gone to, particularly this year with COVID-19. Test optional means you as a student, you have the option whether you want to submit your test scores and have them a part of the review process, or if you rather not have test scores considered in the review of your application. We know that many testing centers have been closed because of COVID-19, which is why many institutions have gone to that test optional policy. We do not want to penalize you all because of this pandemic environment that we are currently in. SuperScore is also a term used related to testing. If you decide to take the SAT or the ACT multiple times, only your best score will be considered for schools that SuperScore, like us. Randolph-Macon, we SuperScore. Common Application and Coalition App. These are online application platforms that institutions are members of, and it essentially works as a universal application. You as the student just have to fill out one application and you can send it to all the member institutions rather than having to fill out an individual application for each school that you want to apply to. So it's a tool to make things easier on you. Randolph-Macon, we are members of the Common Application. And finally, I want to touch on demonstrated interest. Demonstrated interest shows just how interested an applicant is in an institution that they are applying to based on how often they have interacted with that institution. Have they attended a virtual information session or an on-campus tour or set up a meeting with their admissions counselor? All of these interactions are tracked by an institution, and some schools decide to use that demonstrated interest in the review process. So they use how often you have engaged and interacted with them when it comes to reviewing your application. We do not use demonstrated interest at Randolph-Macon, but it's a good thing to know about the schools that you plan on applying to, whether they consider demonstrated interest in that review process. So let's start from the beginning. When should you start filling out applications? Most institutions will open their application sometime in the summer. For us, that's August 1st. Our application always opens up on August 1st. Now, that doesn't mean you have to get on your computer at midnight on August 1st and fill out all of these applications. But really, the summer between your junior and your senior year is a great time to really sit down and plan out how you would like to apply to colleges. Make a list of all the colleges that you're interested in, the deadlines that they have. Are they an early action school, or an early decision school? Are they rolling admissions? What is their regular decision deadline? What are they asking for in the application? Is it an online application, your transcripts, and a letter of recommendation? Are they a test optional school? So making a list and making sure that you're staying organized on top of these things is a really good idea. A tip that I would offer you is make sure you have a binder, a notebook, a calendar set aside just for your college applications. Keep this all stored in one place so you can really stay on top of it. Setting those calendar notifications whenever those deadlines are approaching is always a good idea as well. Now, if you're a senior listening in right now, I know that I'm talking a lot about the summer between your junior and your senior year. I don't want you to fret. There is still time for you to apply to colleges. In fact, at Randolph-Macon, our regular decision deadline is March 1st. So you have a few months to be filling out that college application. But this is the time to really get on top of it. I would start in the next couple of weeks researching those different deadlines so you don't miss a deadline set by an institution. I do know that many institutions have a regular decision deadline of January 15th, which is coming up next week. So this is the time to start doing that research about the institutions that you would like to apply to. I mentioned, or I put down at the bottom of the slide about application fees. So I do want to mention basically what application fees are, what you can expect with that before proceeding on to the components of the application. Some schools have an application fee, so you have to pay a fee in order to submit an application to them. So it's a good idea to research your schools if they have an application fee, so you can account for that and plan accordingly. At Randolph-Macon, we do not have an application fee. It is totally free to apply to us. If a school does have an application fee, on average, that fee is around $50. So if you apply to 3 schools that have a $50 application fee, that's $150 just for submitting applications. So it's something that you don't want to be surprised by. It's a good thing that you plan out so you can be aware of that when it comes to submitting your applications. A tip to note, though, is that sometimes institutions will offer some type of incentive or program that will waive that application fee. One example I can offer for you is the Virginia Private College Week. This is a week-long program, usually in late July, where students who attend 3 visits, 3 information sessions, campus tours at Virginia private colleges will earn 3 fee waivers that they can use when applying to Virginia private colleges. And this past summer, that counted for both virtual visits and in person. So definitely jump on that, because that is a great way to go ahead and waive at least 3 of those application fees. Always feel free to reach out to your admissions counselor at an institution if you are concerned about an application fee, to see if they offer any type of programs that will waive that fee as well. So let's go over the standard application components. Now, I mentioned this in the beginning of tonight's webinar. This is talking very generally. So generally, colleges will be asking for an online application, a transcript, a test score, or they may be test optional, and a letter of recommendation. For some schools, they don't ask for a letter of recommendation. Other schools ask for all these things plus a resume, plus an interview. So again, do your research. You'll hear me say that many times throughout tonight, but do your research so you know what will be asked from the different institutions that you plan to apply to. But generally speaking, these are the items that you will be looking for. So we're gonna break all of these down a little further. Starting with your high school transcripts. You'll mainly be working with your high school counselor when submitting your transcript. They should provide you the information on how to request that transcript and how to send those to the institutions that you will be applying to. So refer to your school counseling website or just be in close contact with your specific high school counselor so you know how to be sending those transcripts to the institutions that you are applying to. If you are a transfer student, just keep in mind that you will be needing to send both your high school transcripts plus your college transcripts to your institutions. When it comes to the online application, basically this is the time that you're going to be typing in a lot of information about yourself, demographic information, family and parent information, your high school or college if you're a transfer student information, the current courses you are taking this year, any honors and awards that you've earned throughout high school, all of your extracurricular activities and details, your personal statements. These are all a part of the online application. A tip that I always highlight to students, if an institution has an optional essay as a part of their online application, go ahead and fill out that optional essay. At Randolph-Macon, we have one optional essay. The prompt is simply, why are you interested in Randolph-Macon? Whenever a student fills out that optional essay, it automatically makes them stand out. It tells me, wow, this student took the extra time to fill out this optional essay and really wrote out a well thought out and structured essay. I take note of that. So I encourage you, if there is an optional essay, go ahead and take the time to fill it out because it's an easy way to make your application stand out amongst the others. There's also a general additional comment section in the online application. So if there's anything else you want to let the admissions office know about you that doesn't fit in to these other sections of the application, putting that in the additional comment section would be appropriate. Let's talk about extracurricular activities and involvement. I know I often field questions from students who may feel that like they're not involved in enough in high school and feel that that may hurt them throughout the admissions process. But we're going to go through all good things to include in this activities section, and hopefully it'll calm those fears if that is a fear of yours. So some great examples of things to include in the extracurricular activity and involvement section. Any clubs that you're involved in your high school or in your community. Sports, and those are both high school sports and club recreational sports. Community service that you've completed throughout high school, any jobs or internships, family responsibilities. If you care for a younger sibling after school or care for an elderly relative, those are things that we want to be aware of. Hobbies. I often see students just put down hobbies that they really love investing their time in, such as drawing or playing a musical instrument. Other school activities like marching band, choir, theater, orchestra, all good things to put in that extracurricular involvement section. Do know that this section is not just for things that you're involved in at your specific high school. It's also for things that you're involved in your community. So if you are an involved member of your religious organization at your church, in your youth group, also good examples of things to jot down in the extracurricular involvement section. Be sure to tell us any leadership roles that you hold and also any awards and recognition that you've earned. This is the time to brag on yourself. So don't hold back anything. Go ahead and let us be aware of those awards that you've earned. Have you been the most valuable player of your team or most improved? These are all things that we want to be aware of. Should you submit a resume? Because essentially that's what all of this is. All of this can appear on a resume. I can tell you at Randolph-Macon, we do not require you to submit a resume. If you do submit one, it will be included with your application. But I would encourage you to go ahead and fill out this information in the online application. Don't leave it blank and then just submit a resume. Go ahead and take the time to fill out this information in the online application. When it comes down to it, it's about quality of involvement versus quantity. It means a lot more to me when I see you involved in maybe 3 to 4 activities that you really spend a lot of your time in. I can tell that you invest your time, are committed and dedicated, maybe hold some leadership roles, versus being involved in 10 clubs at your high school and you've been involved in a semester here and a semester there and haven't really been able to commit a lot of your time to it because you're spread a little too thin. So that is why we say it's really about quality of events over the quantity of events. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Eric to discuss the college essay.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, so one of the most daunting aspects of any college application is probably the college essay, the personal statement, however the application words that. I know I've talked to a lot of students who are expressed concern over, well, how do I even go about starting to think about this college essay? Because it's such a big piece of the application. And I just want to take some time this evening to break that down a little bit and go through some tips and tricks that might be helpful for you as you're thinking through not only how to write a college essay, but how to write a college essay well and one that will grab the attention of your admissions counselor. So the first thing I want to talk about is sort of the main components of what a college essay is. And it's very similar to an essay that you would be writing for a school assignment, where there are 3 main components. There's content, there's structure, and then there's grammatical. There's a grammatical component as well. So what I mean by content is, what is it that you're talking about in your essay? When I talk about structure, is how are you organizing your thoughts? How are you organizing what it is that you're communicating? And then when it comes to grammar, what is the quality of the words and the sentence structure that you're using to communicate what it is that you're communicating? I'm going to be honest, as an admissions counselor who's read many, many college essays at this point, One of the things that sticks out to me most is whether or not a student has taken the time to go through and clean up their grammar on their essay, because when students don't, it's something that sticks out almost like a sore thumb. And not in a good way. That's not the kind of recognition that you want in your application. Um, so making sure that you're paying attention to these components is really, really important. As for what it is that we as college admissions counselors are looking for, um, a lot of college admissions counselors, when they're going through the application process, they're really trying to get to know who you are as an individual, who you are as a student, who you are as an academic. And this essay portion is a really great medium for us, the admissions counselor, to get to know you, to get to know the way that you interact with your teachers, with your world, with your experiences. So first and foremost, we're looking for you in the essay. We're looking for your authentic self. Um, another 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 thing that we're looking for is strong opening and closing statements. One of the things that's really helpful for admissions counselors is being able to track what your essay is trying to say or what you're trying to communicate in your essay. That's why that structure is so important, that we can be able to track what it is that you're trying to communicate. And then, of course, technical ability as well. As I mentioned, writing your sentence as well, making sure that you're using correct spelling, proper capitalization, punctuation. These are all things that are really, really easy to catch and really, really easy to refine when you're going through and going back and taking the time to edit your essay. Or maybe you're having a teacher or a trusted friend who you know is really good at writing, being able to go through and read through your essay with you as well. Another tip and trick that I've found really helpful when I'm writing essays is to read it out loud. Take the time to sit down and read your essay out loud. That really helps your ear tune into, does this essay read well? Is this what I'm trying to communicate? Um, those are the main aspects of a college essay, and those are some of the things that we as college admissions counselors are looking for, because ultimately the application is a representation of who you are as a student. And this is just another really great opportunity that we have to get to know you, in addition to your extracurricular activities, in addition to your transcripts, in addition to everything else that you're including in this application, as Susanna has been talking about already this evening. We can go ahead and jump to the next slide. um, in terms of what it is that you're writing your college essays on, many applications will have pre-populated prompts that you can work off of. Many applications do have a space where you can create your own prompt or answer your own prompt, but especially if you're submitting an application through something like the Common App or the Coalition app, there will be these pre-populated essay prompts that you can base your work off of, which a lot of students find really helpful. These prompts help stimulate stimulate your creativity, stimulate thinking about the different experiences that you would like to talk about in your essay, that help your application to stand out, that help you to communicate who you are to us. So I'm not going to read through all of these prompts here. Feel free to take a screenshot of this slide. All of this information is also up online as well. If you just do a quick Google search for Common App essay prompts, they should pop up in that the first search query. Um, but with that being said, these are really helpful tools in helping you think through the content side of an application essay. You know, one of the things that I talked about with content is it's what it is that you're choosing to talk about in your essay. Um, Another really helpful tip is to think through while you're writing your essay, is this answering everything in this prompt? So take the first prompt, for instance. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, please share your story. As you're writing that essay and as you're editing that essay, continuing to return to that prompt to say, is this something that is sharing a background or identity or interest or talent that is really meaningful to me? Is this something that is crucial to my experience of who I am? being able to return to that to make sure that the content is on point with what it is that you're trying to answer is something that's really helpful and will help make your essay stronger. And we can go ahead and jump to the next slide. And then, of course, I would be remiss not to talk about college essays. At this point in time, there are many of us who have been impacted deeply by the COVID-19 pandemic. It's changed a lot of the way that we do our work. It's changed a lot of the ways that we do our schooling as well. I know it's impacted many of you in some ways really, really significantly. So one of the questions that we get a lot is, what should I do about writing a COVID essay? Because one of the things that we've been talking about this entire evening with your application is you want it to be something that helps you to stick out, helps make your application unique, rather than just being lost in a sea of many, many other applications. And that's something that needs to be considered when entering into something like a COVID essay, where there are probably going to be a lot of other students out there who are also impacted deeply by the COVID-19 pandemic and wanting to share that experience on their application as well. So one of the things that I would encourage you to think about is a couple questions, in that if you are deciding that you want to write about COVID, what about your essay is unique to you, to your experience? What about this essay is an expression of who you are? Maintaining that focus, not only in a COVID essay, but any essay that you decide to write, is going to be really, really important, because that's, as I said, that's really what the point of a college essay statement, personal statement, really is about, is helping us get to know you at a deeper level. So if you are going to be entering into a subject or a topic that a lot of other people are going to be talking about, really being intentional about thinking through what about my essay stands out? What about this is unique? What about this is a particular expression of me and who I am as a student, who I am as an individual, who I am as a child, a son or a daughter, a friend, a brother, sister, whatever that might look like for you. And then another, I guess, image that I think about, or I guess analogy, would be if you were to take your college essay, whether it's about COVID or not, and drop it in the middle of your high school, when high schools are open, when you have all of your students going through their in-between periods, everyone's milling about. If you were to drop your essay in the middle of that floor and walk away, and some random person were to pick it up, would they be able to tell that that is you writing that essay? That's something to be thinking about when you're entering into the college essay process. Is this something that is communicating me, who I am, what kind of person I am, what kind of student I am? But yeah, that's I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful. And of course, your admissions counselors will be really great resources for you as well. Your teachers will be really great resources for you as well. If there's one tip that I can leave you with when it comes to writing your college essay, is edit it. Edit. Spend some time afterwards showing it to other people and reading through it and refining it even further.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Eric. All right, moving on to test scores. If you are sending test scores to your institutions, you will send those either through College Board, if you are sending SAT scores, collegeboard.org, or ACT.org, if you are sending ACT scores. Like I mentioned earlier in this presentation, many institutions decided to go test optional this year. So like I've said before, do your research so you can make a plan. So a few more notes on being test optional. Again, the choice is up to you. However, if you do decide to send scores, just remember they will be considered with your application. An additional thing to note, some schools may be generally test optional for their general admission application, but for a specific program or major, they may require a test score. I believe that there are some nursing programs in the state that may still be requiring a test score, but their general application is test optional. So just do your research to make sure that you are hitting those qualifications if you're applying for a specific program. Also be sure to check to see if your school's super score. So you know that if you are taking those tests multiple times, only your best score will be considered. I do know that many schools do super score. If you're concerned about your test scores, maybe you haven't been able to get into a testing center, which we understand, we hear that often, or you have a score and you're just not sure whether you should send it, whether you shouldn't send it. Feel free to consult your school counselor and also your admissions counselor. As an admissions counselor, I'm happy to field those questions and to talk that through with the student, whether it's wise to send in the score or if it's better to not send in that score. If you're curious about the specific ranges that an institution looks for when it comes to those test scores, feel free to reach out. If they don't already post it on their website, reach out to your admissions counselor to ask specifically so you have a goal in mind that you're striving for when you when and if you decide to take those tests. I can tell you the average test scores for Randolph-Macon for the SAT, our middle 50 range usually is an 1100 to an 1180. The bulk of our students are falling in those SAT ranges. For ACT, it's anywhere from a 22 to a 28. The bulk of our students are falling in. Now, that doesn't mean that students below an 1100 and students below a 22 are not getting in. That doesn't mean that at all, but those are just our middle 50 ranges. So always feel free to consult your admissions counselor at various institutions if you're interested in knowing those ranges. One final component to mention are the letters of recommendation. So first off, know if your institutions require them, and if so, how many. At Randolph-Macon, we require one letter of recommendation, but you are more than welcome to send more, and we will read every letter of recommendation that comes in on your behalf. You definitely want to take some time thinking through who is going to be that great person to write that letter of recommendation for you. Consider people who know a lot about your character, your work ethic, and definitely your academic record. So I would say a school counselor and a teacher are two of your best options for writing that letter of recommendation. But we also understand that you may have a very strong relationship with a coach, an employer, a mentor, advisor, maybe your youth pastor, and you would like them to write a letter on your behalf as well. Those could be great options too. Just make sure one of your letters of recommendation can speak to your academics. A tip that I want to offer you is to give your recommenders plenty of time when it comes to writing that letter of recommendation. They're not going to be happy if you come to them 48 hours before they have to submit that letter of recommendation saying that you need them to write this for you. I think 4 weeks notice is an appropriate amount of time to give a person to write a letter of recommendation for you. Make sure that you provide them with all the resources to make them successful in this as well. Providing them with a copy of your resume, maybe even a copy of your personal statement would definitely be appropriate. And make sure they fully understand the process of submitting that letter of recommendation to the institution. So writing all of this out for them is a good plan, a good thing to do for all those people that you are asking to write a letter of recommendation on your behalf. As far as submitting letters of recommendation to Randolph-Macon, we have several different avenues to do so. You can the recommender can email it to us, admissions@rmc.edu. They can fax it to us. They can mail us a copy through USPS. So many different options. If you apply through Common App, they will submit the letter of recommendation through Common App. So many different ways to submit that letter of recommendation. It is important, however, that it comes from the person that is writing that letter of recommendation. We really prefer it not to come from the student. So just make sure that it does come from the person writing that letter of recommendation. Now, I didn't mention the admissions interview in that initial list of components in the beginning of this presentation, because a lot of institutions do not offer an admissions interview, but we do offer it at Randolph-Macon. So that's why I want to spend some time talking about it. It is an optional component of the application. So it's not mandatory, but it is really encouraged for students to take part in this optional component of the application. Essentially, it's a one-on-one conversation between you and your admissions counselor to talk about your general high school experience. We'll discuss courses that you've really enjoyed diving into and taking. We'll discuss any subject areas that maybe you've struggled in over the years, things that you've been involved in outside of the classroom. Really, it's a time to make us aware of anything that may not come through with the other components of your application. So 2 good reasons to sign up for an admissions interview is one, I just mentioned this, there's something that you want to let us know about yourself that doesn't fit into the other components of your application, or something that's in your application that you want to explain further to your admissions counselor. Keep in mind that your admissions counselor is the first person who lays eyes on your application. So this is a great thing to take advantage of and for us to get to know each other better. That's a second reason to sign up for an admissions interview, is if you feel that your transcript is not an accurate reflection of the type of student that you are. Maybe you went through a hardship during your sophomore year, which is reflected with a dip in your grades during your sophomore year. The admissions interview allows you the time and the space to explain that to your counselor and for us to have a conversation about that. If you're interested in completing an admissions interview, it's a good idea to schedule that and complete it before you submit your application. So we are sure to get in that interview before we start reviewing your application. At this time for Randolph-Macon, we are offering all of those virtually, and we offer them Monday through Friday at 2 different time slots throughout the day. So head to our website, rmc.edu/visit, if you are interested in signing up for an admissions interview. We do take notes as we are going throughout the interview, and we keep those notes with your application. So when we do read your application, we can look back and our memory can be jogged on the conversation that we had during your interview. So you submit your application, now what? First thing, breathe. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's a big accomplishment submitting these applications, and it takes a lot of time and effort. So treat yourself to something. Take a nice deep breath. Next up, make sure that you keep a record of your email address and the password that you use when filling out your applications. At each institution that you apply to, you will create a profile with them and have a way to log in to see the status of different materials within your application. So make sure that you keep a very strict record of the email address and the passwords that you use, and you know where you store this information so you can access it. Be sure to check your email regularly. I know when I was in high school, I was not quite in the routine of checking my email on a daily basis. But this is the time to start getting into that routine. We most frequently communicate with you through email. So if there's any part of your application that we are missing, you will first receive an email from us. When your decision is ready to be viewed on your application portal, you will receive an email. So it's really good to be getting into the groove of checking that email regularly. Be sure you keep tabs on your application portal to see the status of your other materials, if we have received them, if we've not received them. This image on the right side of your screen is a screenshot of a sample of what you would see on an application status page. So once you log into your application portal, this is what you would see. So you can see this student, Barbie, we've received all of her application materials. She has a bunch of green check marks. If any of those materials were missing, there would be a red X next to it. So feel free to log in and out to see the status of us receiving your transcript, of us receiving your letter of recommendation, so you know when your application is complete. Please always feel free to reach out to your admissions counselor if you have any question. Now, moving forward, as you're filling out your application and beyond, we are happy to walk through this process with you and to be answering any of those questions along the way. And then finally, be sure that you continue to engage with the institutions that you are applying to, and that you sign up for those various visit opportunities that we will be emailing out to you. Many of those are virtual these days, such as this webinar. So make sure you sign up for those opportunities to continue learning more about that institution and continuing to engage with them throughout the application process and beyond. Now, I mentioned that we all have different deadlines. All the institutions have different deadlines, but one universal deadline is May 1st. Every college and university in the US has this May 1st deadline. This is the national deposit deadline. So this is the date that you need to let your institution know that you plan on showing up there in the fall, moving in, by submitting that enrollment deposit. That enrollment deposit will secure your spot in their freshman class. Enrollment deposits do vary by institution, so another good thing to do your research on so you're not blindsided by that enrollment deposit. For Randolph-Macon, ours is $400. Now I want to briefly go over, I know I touched on this a lot, kind of what Randolph-Macon does for the application process, but I want to make sure that you have a really good understanding of exactly what we ask for in the application process. So there are two different ways to apply to Randolph-Macon, one of those being the Common App, which we are members of, and the other being directly through our website, apply.rmc.edu/apply. It is totally up to you on which way you would like to apply to us, and both ways are free. Once again, there is no application fee and we don't have a preference. It's completely up to which way you would like to apply. So our deadlines to keep in mind. Early action, remember that's non-binding, so you're not committing yourself to anything. That is November 15th of your senior year. Students who apply by November 15th will hear no later than January 1st. So all our early action students have been notified at this time about their decision. Regular decision deadline is March 1st of your senior year, and you will know by April 1st. And then once again, May 1st is that national deposit deadline. For transfer students joining us this evening, if you're interested in transferring for the spring semester, you need to submit your application by December 1st. If you're interested in transferring for the fall semester, you will submit your application by June 1st. And usually those decisions are turned around in about 2 weeks. Now, what we are looking for when we have that complete application in front of us. First and foremost, we take a really good amount of time looking over your transcript, seeing the courses that you've been taking throughout high school and the grades you've been earning in those courses. Have you been challenging yourself throughout high school with any more rigorous courses, such as AP, IB, dual enrollment, honors, whatever those challenging courses look like at your particular high school, and then to see that you're rising to the occasion in those tougher courses. The average incoming Randolph-Macon freshman is a B+ to A- student in high school who has some form of rigor in their schedule. We also take a look at your test scores if you submit those to us, whether it be SAT or ACT, but keep in mind that we are test optional for this year and for next year. We will read through your personal statement. Personally, that is my favorite part of your application. I love reading those essays from you. We require, like I said, one letter of recommendation, but we'll read all the letters of recommendation that come in on your behalf. We will take a look at your extracurricular involvement, any leadership positions that you've been holding and awards that you've earned. If you are a transfer student, just keep in mind that you'll also need to submit that college transcript to us. And then if you decide to interview with us, we will also take a look back at those interview notes and be reminded of the interview that you did with your admissions counselor. Do know that at Randolph-Macon, we do a holistic review process, meaning that our decision does not solely rely on the GPA that's on your transcript or a test score that we receive. Really, we take all of these different components that we've been talking about this evening they're all a factor that go into that decision that we release to you at the end of the day. So we would never stop reading the application solely because of a grade that we see on a transcript or a SAT score that we receive. All of these materials are a factor and all of them are very important parts of the college application, which is what we mean when we say that holistic review. They are all pretty much on an even scale when it comes to that review process and when it comes to us releasing that decision back to you. Faith mentioned this as well, to make sure that you stay engaged with us. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Snapchat. Our students are in the process of moving back to campus for J-term at this time and for spring semester. So we're going to be really ramping up those student takeovers. It's a really great opportunity to get a sneak peek inside what it's like to be a student at Randolph-Macon. So be sure to follow along on Instagram and Snapchat. This does round out our first webinar for our January webinar series. I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. Be sure that you tune in for our other January webinars. Next Wednesday, we are going to be doing Financial Aid 101. The third week of January, we are covering academic life. And then the last week, we are going to round out with talking about student life. These are, like I said, every Wednesday, 6 to 7. And you can sign up on our website, rmc.edu/visit. You will also see our other visit opportunities on our website. We are at this time open for campus tours. If you are nearby, if you can make it to the Ashland area, please come visit us. We would love to show you around campus. Our student tour guides are eager to have prospective students with us. And we are following all CDC guidelines, so it is a very safe environment to be touring at this time. But you can register for an on-campus tour on our website as well. So once again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. If you have any questions lingering, we will stick around for a couple minutes to answer those questions for you through the Q&A feature. But I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you and take care.